A scholar once pointed out that the Arabic word for human being, insan, is tied to the root word uns, which means comfort, intimacy, and connection. The word for human literally means the one who needs closeness, so we were built for it. Scholars also say that loneliness is a gift, that Allah takes people away so that you can get closer to Him. And maybe that's true, but your brain doesn't know that. Your brain thinks you're dying. And that's not a metaphor. Researchers at the University of Chicago found that chronic loneliness rewires your gene expression. Your body starts upregulating inflammation and downregulating antiviral responses, meaning your immune system shifts into a profile that's optimized for soft tissue repair and short term survival. The same profile it would activate if you got physically hurt. So your biology is preparing you for a threat that isn't even coming. But it doesn't know that, and it doesn't wait to find out. When someone tells you to just get closer to Allah and the loneliness will go away, they aren't wrong, but they're skipping about 4 chapters of what's actually happening inside your body. And those chapters matter. When you're lonely for long enough, your brain starts to change emotionally, but also structurally. Prolonged isolation raises cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol at normal levels keeps you alert, but cortisol at chronic levels, it breaks you. Your immune system gets weaker, your sleep architecture fragments, so you wake up exhausted no matter how much sleep you got. And your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision making and social reasoning, that gets smaller. But the worst part isn't even the physical damage, it's the mental shift. Psychologist John Cacioppo spent 20 years studying loneliness before he passed away, and he identified something he called hypervigilance for social threat. When you've been alone too long, your brain flips into a mode where it scans every social interaction for rejection. Someone takes too long to reply to your text, they must not care. A friend cancels plans, they're pulling away. A room full of people laughing, wait, are they laughing at you? None of it's real, but your nervous system doesn't care about what's real. It cares about what keeps you alive. And for most of our history, being separated from your group meant death. So your brain treats loneliness like an emergency. It floods you with threat signals, and those signals distort how you see everyone around you. You start to believe that you're fundamentally different, that everyone has some ability to connect that you missed, that something inside you is broken. And the irony is that belief makes you withdraw even more. Cacioppo called it the loneliness loop. The lonelier you feel, the more you pull away. The more you pull away, the lonelier you feel. The lonelier you feel, the more you pull away. And at no point does it feel like a loop. It just feels like the truth. And this is why the advice you get doesn't always connect. Someone tells you the Prophet ﷺ said that the wolf eats the sheep that strays from the flock. And you know that's true. You know that you should be around people. You know that the masjid is there. You know community exists. But knowing doesn't override a nervous system that's been stuck in threat mode for a year. Knowing doesn't quiet the voice inside you that says everyone in there has their own circle, so you'll just be standing on the outside again. Knowing doesn't change the fact that you went last Friday and no one even spoke to you and you drove home feeling worse than before you even went. The gap between knowing what to do and being able to do it, that gap is where most people live, but almost nobody talks about it. So, how do you close that gap? You have to understand what Islam is actually doing when it prescribes community, because it's not just spiritual advice. When you look at it through a psychological lens, the Islamic framework for loneliness is exceedingly precise. Start with congregational prayer. 5 times a day, you're instructed to physically be around other people. Psychologists have a clinical tool for this exact problem, and it's called behavioral activation. When someone is depressed or socially withdrawn, you don't wait for them to feel motivated. You get them to act first, and the feelings follow. Islam prescribed behavioral activation 1400 years before psychologists even had a name for it. And the structure matters. You're not thrown into a room and told to network. You stand shoulder to shoulder. You move together. You say Amin together. There's no pressure to perform socially. You don't have to be interesting or funny or have something witty to say. You just have to be there. For someone whose nervous system feels that social spaces are unsafe, That low pressure, intentional contact is exactly what's needed to start disarming the threat response. And then there's dhikr, repeating the names of Allah, sitting with gratitude, morning and evening supplications. From the outside, it looks purely spiritual, but from a neurological standpoint, it's rhythmic, repetitive vocalization coupled with focused attention, which is almost identical to what therapists called vagal toning. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It lowers cortisol. It pulls you out of the fight or flight and into a calm, regulated state. You can't connect with other people when your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. Dhikr brings you down. It creates the internal condition where connection becomes possible again. And then there's the concept Ibn al-Qayyim wrote about, what he called estrangement. He said that there are different kinds. There's the loneliness of being physically isolated, but there's also the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling like a stranger. And he said that the believers will always carry some of that. That in a world that pulls you towards everything except what matters, feeling out of place isn't a disorder, it's a signal. That reframe is psychologically powerful because one of the deepest wounds of loneliness is the belief that something is wrong with you for feeling it. Ibn al Qayyim reminds us that the feeling has a purpose. It means you haven't numbed yourself. It means you still want something real. And that wanting is the door, it's not the wall. There's a line from the classical scholars that always stays with me. When he alienates you from creatures, you know that he wants to open the door of intimacy with him. That's not toxic positivity. That's a reframe rooted in the idea that loneliness, when you stop running from it, becomes the thing that turns you towards something you couldn't reach while you were surrounded by the noise. Allah alone. Loneliness is not a character flaw, and it's not a sign of weak iman. It's proof that your heart is still searching, that you haven't settled for shallow, that something in you still knows what real connection is supposed to feel like, and you refuse to settle for anything less. And Allah knows best. Hey, if this video resonated with you, even in a small way, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you want psychology and faith in the same conversation every week, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Assalamu alaikum.